jumping ahead in time. Here's a little ditty of a very well-known character made famous by Shakespeare, here written out in a poem, perhaps is attributed to Ben Jonson, a poem about Robin Goodfellow. From Oberon in fairyland, the king of ghosts and shadows there, mad Robin, I, at his command, am sent to view the night sports here. What revel rout is kept about in every corner where I go, I will o'ersee and merry be, and make good sport with ho, ho, ho. More swift than lightning can I fly about this airy welkin soon, and in a minute's space descry each thing that's done below the moon. There's not a hag or ghost shall wag or cry where Robins where I go, but Robin I their feats will spy and send them home with ho, ho, ho. Whene'er such wanderers I meet, as from their night sports they trudge home, with counterfeiting voice I greet, and call them on with me to roam. Through woods, through lakes, through bogs, through brakes, or else unseen with them I go, all in the nick to play some trick and frolic it with ho, ho, ho. Sometimes I meet them like a man, sometimes an ox, sometimes a hound, and to a horse I turn me can to trip and trot about them round. But if to ride my back they stride, more swift than wind away I go, o'er hedge and lands, through pools and ponds, I worry laughing, ho, ho, ho.
Slower.
I know that's very fast. Yeah, of course. Well, yeah.
Okay. When you just read that poem, are people familiar with Lud in the Mist by Hope Mirrlees?
Yeah.
Do you think that's where she got the ho, ho, ho for, I don't know if anybody's ever noticed that before, but I'm betting.
It was his little moniker in the 16th century, really popular. Oh, that's interesting, I wonder.
Willie, what's the name of the character who does the little ho, ho, ho's in Lud in the Mist? Which, if you all have not read, it's an extraordinary book. It's really one of the what would you call it? Kind of the mother lode or the silver lode for contemporary fantasists. No, but I think a lot of people, at least in our generation, when their fantasy was first starting to be published in the wake of Tolkien, you know, there wasn't a lot being written that was like Tolkien, so people, you know, editors went digging into the past to find what they could that would satisfy that same itch. And this one novel by this one obscure English novelist, Hope Mirrlees, who also turns out to have been a huge pal of all the Bloomsbury group, is called Lud, L-U-D -in-the-mist, and there's nothing else like it, and it really did influence a generation. I think the most recent printing of it is, I forget who did it, but Neil Gaiman wrote an intro to it, talking about how it had affected him. It really affected all of us.
There's a black and white drawing in the art show.
Did you do a cover?
That's from the book.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Sort of, it's a interpretation of the book because it's Michael Swanwick, another fantasy writer, wrote a essay as much as possible that you could learn about Hope Mirrlees, and I did the illustration for it, and Neil wrote it.
Oh, that was, it was Henry's book. I'm sorry, my publisher, Henry Wessels, of Contemporary Culture, printed this. It's this extraordinary, you know, sort of scholarly biography, quite short because there's not that much known about Mirrlees, that Michael Swanwick, another great writer of our generation, did, published 2 years ago, and Neil wrote the intro and Charles did the frontispiece. So I'm dismayed not to see a lot of people going, oh yes, Hope Mirrlees, Lud in the Mist. So y'all go out and find it and read it. It will give you profound pleasure and also some revelations. Yeah?
I believe that the Valentines did paperback training of that.
Yep.
Yes, they did.
Kind of a wacky cover.
Yeah.
And it wasn't part of the adult fantasy line, but I...
No, it was.
It was, because I had it.
It was actually, it was one of the...
I read it a lot of times.
Me too. It was one of the, I mean, the guy, the editor who worked for the Valentines, who found all his reprints was, oh my God, my brain's just gone blank.
Lynn Carter.
Lynn
Yeah,
Carter.
that's right.
Lynn Carter. And he really just supplied us all with the crack we needed to... yeah. Okay, how's that? You good?
Fantastic.
You're still working on Robin here.
Yeah, excellent. You bought a little more time. Yeah, I noticed you turned around and stopped drawing for a moment.
Oh, damn.
All right.
How could I have done that?
All right. We're very comfortable, I think, with this idea of Robin Goodfellow as a fairy, as a prankster. as the fairies with wings and things like this, right? But in so much of the folklore, we find almost none of that. So if in the 19th century you were speaking in a folkloric sense, in a country sense, about fairies, you would find things like this. You'll notice the word fairy is mentioned in here nowhere. This is from a collection, it's a very short snippet, it's from a collection of texts collected by Lady Augusta Gregory, who was one of Yeats's good friends, who went around asking stories of people in the West Country, men and women, speaking to them in Gaelic, and then translated the answers, though she left out her original questions. So often their responses will begin with things like, oh, no, 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 I don't know anything about this, but then they'll go on to something else. Here's one very brief account from a woman named Mary Nagel. She says, they were asked about fourths or lisses, which is the old way of saying the fairy hill. A fourth or a fort or a liss in Gaelic was the hill where the fairies lived. She says, one time a woman from the north came to our house, and she said a great deal of people are kept below there in the lisses. She had been there herself, and in the night time, in one moment, they'd all be away at Cruma, wherever they may be, down in the north, I believe that is. And she knew everything, this woman, that was in the house, and told us about my sister being sick, and that there was hurling going on, as there was that day at the Isabella Wood in Cooley. And all about Cooley House, she knew that place, as if she'd spent her life in it. I'd have picked a lot of stories out of her, but my mother got nervous when she heard the truth coming out and bid me be quiet. She had a red petticoat on her, the same as any countrywoman, and she offered to cure me, for it was that time then I was delicate, and your ladyship sent me the salt water. But she asked a shilling, and my mother said she hadn't got it. You have, says she, and heavier metal than that you have in this house. So my mother gave her the shilling, and she put it on the fire and melted it. But we never spoke of it. And the cure that she left, I never took it. It's not safe, and the priests forbid us to take their cures, for it must be surely from the devil their knowledge comes, he says. But no doubt at all, she was one of the gentry that can take the form of a woman by day and another form at night. After that, she went to Mrs. Quaid's house and asked her for a bit of tobacco. You'll get it again, she said, and more with it. And sure enough, that very day, a bit of meat came into Mrs. Quaid's house. This sort of account, one of the most common relating to fairies.